Dominic, good to see you. Let's start with you. You're director of marketing, but you have a technical background. Tell us about that before we get to what nChain is doing.
Well, okay, so yeah, I have a technical background. It's a background actually with Texas Instruments. That's where it began. What I discovered is that actually, from a coding point of view, I wasn't very good at it. And what I found is that I was much better at talking about it and turning it into real life application.
Well, then let's talk about what nChain is doing, because nChain is focused on enterprise-grade blockchain solutions, as your homepage says of your website. Tell us what nChain's been up to about creating a blockchain as a service platform for business.
Well, Jimmy, with my marketing remit, I can't help but fall into telling you a story before I go into some detail.
Tell me a story.
So, what I'm a little wary of is the term blockchain as a service, because I think what it does is it assumes a level of knowledge in the mind of the reader. And that level of knowledge is, in the main, if we're talking to enterprise, not there. Or if it is there, there's probably a misconception. So in a sense, what I'd prefer to do is talk in terms of the benefits of blockchain as a service. Sadly, though, that means the acronym turns into BaaS, which doesn't really work.
Yeah, I don't like BaaS.
Not really, no. So the benefits of blockchain, I think, can be distilled down. We've heard this term often over the course of the 3 days, and that's data integrity.
Right.
But there's a danger, I think, with data integrity and us in this ecosystem talking repeatedly about data integrity, because whilst it's incredibly important, what we don't want to do is turn it into the word innovation.
Correct. Where it doesn't mean anything anymore.
Which doesn't mean anything,
right.
Absolutely. The truth is that data integrity is absolutely vital, and it's something that we, in this ecosystem, with BSV blockchain, can actually deliver. And that's really significant because when you think about it, the entire world relies on unreliable data. And I'm not talking about bad data. I'm talking about data that can be tampered with, data that doesn't have integrity or that might not have integrity. So as a result, the need to review, the need to check is baked in to everything we do. It's baked in, and it needn't be.
So what is nChain doing about it?
So what nChain's doing about it is addressing the fact that data integrity actually in the real world means fact over faith. It's actually the difference between believing your data has integrity and knowing it has integrity. And really what that is distilled down to for our platform in its early stage is going to be about engaging audiences around notarization and notarized audit trails.
Of data?
Of data.
And records?
Yes, absolutely.
And this will be available as, what, a set of APIs?
Yes.
Correct. We'll talk about that more. Let's go to Lin in China. So we heard from you earlier, Lin. You talked a bit about your DotWallet whole platform. It has DotWallet for developers, which provides a number of functionalities that make it easier for businesses and developers to integrate into your whole ecosystem of systems, such as payment functions and token services, as well as a blockchain information query capability. Would you tell us more about these capabilities and how it makes things easier for businesses?
Okay, this kind of developer platform is made for the people that has the interest to develop blockchain application, but they need to get to the effort of the user's private key or the user's wallet. They need to interact with the help of the user. And apart from that, we think that the user might need a better control over their own data and own private keys, right? So the enterprise may not have the ability to touch everything to serve the customer, right? So we think we can fill the gap between the user, the consumer side, and the needs from the customers, from the client, from the enterprises, like the services we recently put online is the cards, right? So we can help the merchants and the enterprises to just use the Bitcoin blockchain to have their own token, their own cards, their other badge services, but without the need for our user to touch the coin side. I think that is very important that we will not have to focus our application on top of Bitcoin SV users, but we have to allow more users that they may not know about Bitcoin, they may not know about blockchain, but they will take full advantage of our facility, of the Bitcoin ledger.
Got it. So it's an effort to make easier the use of BSV as infrastructure, data plumbing, as I mentioned on day one. Angela, let's talk about TAAL. So TAAL is known to be in the business of mining or transaction processing on the Bitcoin SV blockchain. Tell us about this TAAL Console I keep hearing about and how it will benefit your enterprise clients.
Thank you, Jimmy. Yes, the TAAL Console is a platform that we have recently launched and have available for our clients that are building applications on the Bitcoin SV blockchain. Ultimately, what it is a web application. You register for it, you can log in and track your transaction activity in real time across multiple projects. It also allows you access to the testnet, mainnet. You can manage your API keys, and you can also access the flexible service packages we have available for clients that are in fiat-based currency, USD, or payable in BSV. Through this console, you can have access to the services that we provide to application developers or enterprises building on the chain, which is through our TAAL API or our TAAL clients. So for any applications that are generating transactions, they can send those to us, write them to the chain. They can also explore the blockchain through our number of APIs that we have available. If the client does require some assistance in constructing the transaction and doesn't want to handle the digital asset, they can download the TAAL client as an SDK into their network, and that allows them to help construct and create the transaction, sign the transaction in their own network, and send the data over to us. We also have the STAS token, the token protocol that is in private beta at the moment, but this also allows application developers to create on top of Bitcoin SV, create and issue any type of token. It's currently in private beta, but we've seen a number of surprising and very creative use cases that are coming out from that, so we're excited to share more in the future. And another area that we have is we operate What's On Chain, which is a block explorer. And anyone can go to whatsonchain.com today and explore the full history of Bitcoin SV and the transactions that happen. If you actually check it out today, there's some exciting activity on chain yesterday, some large blocks.
Yes, congratulations on an almost world record block with TAAL, 544 megabytes, not quite the world record.
Not yet. But the scalability is there. It's proven. You can see it in these types of tools. Also, there's a very robust API library there that allows any of the clients to read and query the blockchain and receive that real-time data into their application.
Got it. So it's more than just a basic block explorer.
Yes, and underpinning all of that is our mining infrastructure. So this is providing the processing power to power those applications that are building on BSV and lets us stand behind our service level agreements. So it's a big part of our roadmap for this year is expanding that infrastructure.
Got it. Dominic, let's go back to you. So you mentioned you're starting with notarization, correct? And what was the other one for the platform?
Audit trail.
Audit trail, that's correct. How many other functions or modules is nChain planning as part of this enterprise business platform?
Well, many. But as we know...
How many?
Lots. But as we know in this room, the possible use cases are many. But we're very, very conscious of not attempting to boil the ocean when we launch the platform. There's a danger in that. And I think whilst nChain is certainly not a startup, its IP portfolio, its work with the likes of Company with a K, EHR Data, and Tuvalu are a testament to that. But in many ways, the platform is a sort of a microcosm. It's a microcosm sort of startup, if you like. And I like to term it that way because it means that we can adopt a startup-like mindset. And what that means is that, as any successful startup founder will say, as soon as the product hits the market, within a very short time, something happens. Something happens, in a good way, that the market starts to define. And that might be a change in commercial model, it might be change in functionality, focus, or both. And that could be a profound change. And in this sense and in this space, I think it doesn't do anyone any favors to map out too early the development plan. But what we're already looking at is things like, as you can imagine, claims management, asset management. We're also looking at rights management. All of these things that we know are fundamentally available and fundamentally possible. It's just a case of actually being able to tie up the APIs to do it.
Get it. When are you expected to launch?
When?
Yes, when?
Very early Q3.
Very early Q3. We'll be all looking for it.
And that's not an expectation.
Exactly. Okay, let's go back to Lin. Lin, let's talk about a couple of the functionalities in your DotWallet for Developers platform. Tell us about some of the payment and token services that you make it easier for businesses to do through your platform.
I think we can make it much better to utilize it without touch the coin side for our enterprises. Because when we think about the utility from the perspective of our consumers, those consumers cannot get their Bitcoin SV to pay for their fees, to pay for the UTXO that is used to write to the ledger. So I think that it will be very important that we can just as a service provider, we can pay for the enterprises, pay for our consumers, so that they will not have to deal with the exchange side or to know more about the Bitcoins. Then they can just take advantage of the Bitcoin ledger and the application, the developer that can help them. So I think it will be our key feature that we will split the Bitcoin token with the larger services for our user to take fully advantage of it. Like the payment, right? Currently we support payment in BSV, and we have payment in the BTC token and the Ethereum token. And I think in the coming future, we would like to integrate payment in DCP, the digital currency from the Chinese central bank, or we can help our user to build an on-chain identity, which is the Chinese identity card system. We can integrate that services, but we would not need the consumer to know about the ledger, to know about applications, right? They can just use the services. So we will focus on the cost of the utility, on the cost of the application. The service fee, the transaction fee paid is the cost to offer the services. It should be paid by the beneficial, or by the developers, or by the users itself. So when we talk about the BaaS, B-A-S, we call it Bitcoin as a service, right? I think the nature of the Bitcoin is peer-to-peer. It is go against the services. We would need to get rid of the trusted third party as much as possible, unless it will improve our efficiency. But if all of the application, all the enterprises adopt the peer-to-peer model, how we can help them? What will they need to improve their services? I think it is very important that we need to think about the cost of their transactions. Why we should let the consumer to pay for those transactions? Why we create so many applications that require our consumer to pay for using it? Is it really needed? So after that, we think we can provide a lot of basic infrastructure, like the batch services, the cards application, which will be like a wallet without BSV. But the user still holds their identity, holds their private keys, and we still manage the UTXO for the user. That is what I think that we can help the whole ecosystem to get more adoption.
That's a fascinating approach, and thank you for that explanation. For those of you who don't know, Lin's company actually supports with their wallet a token of BTC and a token of Ethereum that is built on the BSV ledger because it's more efficient and much cheaper and faster to send BTC or Ethereum through BSV, which he and I started talking about 2 years ago, and I'm glad to see you actually built it. Angela, let's go back to you. So tell us what prompted TAAL to create TAAL Console and some of these B2B services for your clients, because people would not automatically associate that with a transaction processing business. What are you trying to achieve?
Ultimately, what we're trying to achieve is a platform that provides customer service and provides the ability to track the activity and monitor your business on the blockchain, creating a simplified platform for that. Client, you want to take, also inside the application, they have the ability to manage their billing. They get automated invoicing. Some of these key features that we need to provide to applications that are building on chain, more from an administrative tool set that can help the business continue to function on the blockchain.
Sure. You mentioned service level agreements. That's something we typically hear with respect to, for example, software or tech licensing, where a company commits to, for example, uptime of a website or uptime of a particular application and has to pay back credits to the customer client if those uptimes are not met. How do service level agreements fit into the business model of TAAL? Because that's not something traditional Bitcoin miners have done.
No, and it's the service that we would like to provide to applications. It's relying, creating TAAL as a reliable and scalable service provider. We want to be there for our clients when their applications scale, when they hit it big. We have the scalability, we build on Bitcoin SV, and service level agreements provide that comfort and that contractual arrangement with these application developers to let them know that we're going to be there for them and that they can rely on the transactions getting processed efficiently, effectively, and faster through TAAL.
Can you give us like a concrete example of how one of these SLAs would work? TAAL commits to what?
We would try to process, we commit to processing your transaction within 24 to 48 hours, for example.
Right, depending on what a particular client or customer wants. Right.
Yes, the needs for the clients, what we're seeing in our pipeline, are unique to their application. So it really depends on what kind of call they're making, reading, writing, querying the blockchain, or wanting some of that data retrieved back to them, areas that we're exploring.
Got it. So Dominic, speaking about service levels and pricing, how is nChain planning to charge for its platform services?
Well, it's likely to be involved at 2 levels, licensing of some sort, and then a charge for transaction. The likelihood is, though, that we won't call these transactions because we need to make sure that we are talking to our audience. And I think in many cases, transactions might have the wrong connotation. So in the early instance, probably we'll be talking about notarizations and then a level of license agreement.
Got it. And it's funny that you mentioned that you're not particularly a fan of the BaaS, acronym. Do you think it is helpful to market to businesses or government agencies what this ecosystem is starting to deliver as BaaS? Because some people think, well, they can understand it. It's like platform as a service, software as a service, or you think that may not be helpful. Tell us about that.
No, I absolutely think it is. I mean, as a service, as a concept, has been around now for over 20 years. Salesforce.com really pretty much pioneered that when Mark Benioff decided to move from Siebel, and he realized that the need for already the case for having on-premise software to carry out what would otherwise be complex and expensive tasks is just unwarranted, not necessary. So he moved that, and Salesforce.com, 10 years later, was worth $1 billion. It's been around, it's a proven model. In moving Salesforce to the cloud and turning it into an as-a-service offering, obviously, that grew incredibly fast. And of course, the attractiveness is that removal of complexity, the removal of the expense for on-premise software. And that's really what we're hoping to achieve with blockchain as a service, albeit maybe transformation as a service.
Right, digital transformation as a service, right. Kind of like your new AWS for digital transformation. Lin, what do you think are the types of blockchain or Bitcoin as a service functions that businesses need that the BSV ecosystem still has not created? And maybe your company might create? What's missing that we need to fill?
I think we might need some services like some SDK or open source infrastructure, open source software that can help the enterprises to better take advantage of the SPV model. I think it will be a very key aspect of the services. And apart from that, I think we need to deal with like double standing, like payment fraud, like any cheating in the minor field. So I think these are the key factors we need to provide to the enterprises. And apart from that, I think there will be the key chain management, which is very important, and the information structure, the protocol that need to be formalized to help the enterprises to better understand how the data on the Bitcoin blockchain is the form of the data. In my understanding, I don't see the necessity to put every data on chain or to store them on the Bitcoin transactions. I think the transaction is just a way that we can use it to timestamp something, but those raw data can be stored off-chain. These different layers can help the enterprises to cut down their costs.
Yeah,
and all these things are missing, and only some enterprises, only some developers, not everyone, understand it and start to think about it and take fully advantage of using it. So I think it will be maybe many years that we can create a full set of those tools to help the enterprises, to help the developers. But I think we can start from most emergency ones and start building open source tools and work with these developers to provide better infrastructure for them. The Bitcoin as a service, I think there are not so many services that we need to offer to our client or to those developers, because those are all SPV. So they might need several help from the miner, like they can easily get Merkle proofs, they can easily to get block headers to monitoring the network to find the fork of the block headers. And they would need the double spend notification from miners. I would say there were 4 kinds of services that a miner could offer. One is to get raw transaction from the blockchain. The 2 is get block headers. The 3rd is to get Merkle proof. And the last one is to get the UTXO status.
Okay, thank you so much. That is actually a really great summary of the different things, functionality that's needed. And I want to underline one point that Lin made, which I think is an excellent point. Just because BSV's blockchain can scale to handle all kinds of data does not mean all businesses need to put all of their data on chain. It depends on what the business function is. Not everything needs to be on a blockchain, and you can use the blockchain to simply control access to data that remains still on off-chain storage and servers or cloud. So it really depends on what the business function is. Final question goes to Angela, and then we'll wrap up. Angela, what are your enterprise as well as transaction processing clients telling you that they need, and how is TAAL considering fulfilling those types of needs in the future?
Yes, so the feedback that we've been receiving is definitely a need for data storage, archivable services, and more administrative tools built into the TAAL console. So that is going to be going through cycles internally, and we'll be putting that into our product roadmap.
Okay, great. Well, I look forward to seeing the continued development of all of these blockchain, Bitcoin, something as a service infrastructure platforms to make it easier for the business of the world to get their data, if they want to ignite it, onto the power of BSV. So please give a round of applause to our panelists here, Dominic, Angela, and Lin.